Hello, everyone. Let me start with something simple, two letters, one word, and yet one of the hardest things to say, no. But today, I want to tell you something that took me years to learn. Saying no is not rejection. It's not arrogance, it's not selfishness, it's self-respect, it's clarity, it's peace. We live in a world that glorifies yes. Say yes to more work, say yes to every opportunity, say yes to keep others comfortable. Especially if you're someone who's been taught to please, to endure, to smile through discomfort, saying no feels like rebellion, but sometimes rebellion is the only path to freedom. You see, every time you say yes when your heart screams no, you abandon a little part of yourself. Your energy depletes, your mind grows restless, and slowly you forget that you deserve peace, not chaos disguised as duty. Let me be clear, saying no is not shutting doors, it's choosing the right ones to open. It's not about being harsh, it's about being honest with others and with yourself. It's about drawing boundaries with grace, not guilt. Whether it's walking away from toxic relationships, declining an opportunity that doesn't align with your values, or simply taking time for yourself without explaining why it takes courage, but that courage is what will protect your mental health, your dreams, your essence. The truth is, peace isn't loud, it doesn't demand attention, it's quiet, steady, and deeply personal. But to find it, to keep it, you have to defend it with the same fire you use to chase your goals. You owe no one an apology for protecting your peace. You owe yourself a life that doesn't feel like survival. Saying no is often misunderstood. Many people associate it with negativity, selfishness, or even rudeness. But in truth, saying no is one of the most powerful expressions of self-respect. It's a boundary, not a barrier. It's a statement that says, I know who I am, what I need, and what I'm not willing to compromise. And the moment you start honoring yourself enough to say no, is the moment your life starts aligning with your peace. From an early age, we're taught to please, to agree, to cooperate, especially if you're raised in environments where obedience was rewarded and questioning was discouraged. So, saying no feels unnatural, uncomfortable, or even shameful. But over time, you begin to realize that constantly saying yes to everything and everyone is not a virtue, it's a slow erosion of your own identity. Every time you say yes to something that violates your values, drains your energy, or compromises your well-being, you're saying no to yourself. You're shrinking to fit into spaces that were never designed to honor your worth in the first place. Self-respect is about understanding your worth so clearly that you refuse to diminish it to satisfy others. It means knowing that your time is valuable, your energy is sacred, and your boundaries are non-negotiable. When you say no, from a place of inner clarity and confidence, you're not being difficult, you're being deliberate, you're making the conscious choice to prioritize your peace over pleasing people. And that is not weakness, that is strength in its purest form. The real challenge is that people won't always like your no. They may guilt you, challenge you, or even walk away. But here's the truth. People who truly respect you will respect your boundaries. The ones who don't were benefiting from your lack of them, and letting go of relationships, jobs, or situations that thrive on your silence or compliance is a necessary part of honoring yourself. Saying no is how you weed out what no longer serves your growth. And it's not just about dramatic moments or life-changing decisions. Sometimes self-respect is in the smallest no's. No, I'm not available tonight because I need to rest. No, I'm not joining that meeting because it's not aligned with my priorities. No, I won't let that comment slide because it disrespected me. These micro decisions build your inner strength. They reinforce the truth that your voice matters and that you're not obligated to be everything for everyone at the cost of your own peace. There's also a quiet power that comes with knowing you don't owe people explanations. You can say no simply because you want to, and that's enough. You don't have to justify your rest, your solitude, your dreams, or your peace. Giving yourself permission to say no without guilt is one of the most liberating forms of emotional freedom. So, the next time you hesitate, remember, saying no is not rejection, it's redirection. It's choosing yourself with intention. And when you do that consistently, unapologetically, you stop living out of fear and start living from a place of grounded self-respect. That shift will change your relationships, your energy, and your entire sense of self. Because the more you honor your boundaries, the more the world begins to honor them too. Constantly saying yes might seem harmless, even noble at first. After all, we're often praised for being accommodating, flexible, and agreeable. Society tends to celebrate the person who's always available, always saying yes, always showing up no matter the cost. But beneath that surface level approval is a dangerous trap, the slow and silent act of self-abandonment. When you consistently say yes to things that don't align with your inner truth, you begin to disconnect from yourself. It's not always obvious. It starts subtly agreeing to a project you don't have the bandwidth for, accepting a social invitation when you're mentally and emotionally drained, tolerating behavior that makes you uncomfortable just to avoid conflict. These choices feel small in the moment, but over time they chip away at your sense of peace, your confidence, and your self-worth. Each unnecessary yes is a quiet betrayal, not of others, but of yourself. You tell yourself it's not a big deal, or I'll deal with it later, but later becomes a pattern, and that pattern becomes a lifestyle of overextension, emotional exhaustion, and people pleasing. You begin to live reactively instead of intentionally putting everyone else's needs ahead of your own and losing touch with what you actually want or need. Eventually, you may start to feel resentful, but you don't know who to blame. You feel overworked, undervalued, or misunderstood, but you're unsure how you got there. That's the hidden cost of abandoning yourself. The world sees a helpful, kind, always available version of you. But internally, you feel stretched thin and unseen, like you're performing instead of living. You're no longer saying yes because you mean it, but because you're afraid of the consequences of saying no. It's important to realize that your yes should mean something. It should come from a place of choice, not pressure. When you feel obligated to say yes to avoid guilt, rejection, or judgment, that's not kindness, that's fear in disguise. And fear-driven decisions always leave you feeling empty. Saying yes out of guilt may temporarily avoid conflict, but it creates a deeper conflict within yourself. Learning to pause before saying yes is powerful. Ask yourself, am I doing this out of alignment or obligation? Is this a genuine desire or a conditioned response? Your body knows, your gut knows. That hesitation, that tightness in your chest, that inner voice saying this doesn't feel right, that's your intuition asking you to stop abandoning yourself. Reclaiming your peace begins with recognizing this pattern and choosing to change it. You won't get it right every time. Sometimes you'll still overcommit, still say yes out of habit, but awareness is the first step. When you start honoring your inner no, even in small ways, you begin to reconnect with your needs. And when you prioritize your needs, you build a life that feels real, not one built to please others, but one that respects and reflects who you truly are. You are not responsible for other people's comfort at the cost of your own well-being. You don't have to explain, over-explain, or apologize for protecting your space. Saying yes to everyone is not love, it's a way of disappearing. But saying no with intention and clarity is how you show up for yourself, and you deserve to show up for yourself fully, not half, present, not half, heard fully, honestly, and unapologetically. Boundaries are often misunderstood. People think setting them means pushing others away or being cold and distant, but the truth is, Boundaries are not walls, they're filters. They don't shut people out, they let the right people in. They allow love, respect, and connection to flow in both directions, but only when it's healthy, mutual, and safe. When you don't have boundaries, you become a sponge. You absorb everyone's energy, opinions, expectations, and problems. You begin to live according to what other people want or need from you, instead of what truly feels right to you. Without boundaries, your life becomes overcrowded mentally, emotionally, even spiritually. You lose the ability to hear your own voice because it's drowned out by the noise of everyone else's demands. Boundaries are how you say, "This is where I end and someone else begins." They are essential for self-protection, emotional clarity, and peace of mind. A boundary might be as simple as not answering work calls after a certain hour. It might be choosing not to engage in certain conversations. It might be distancing yourself from people who constantly drain your energy. It doesn't mean you don't care. It means you care enough about yourself, your mental health, your priorities to create space where you can thrive. The beauty of boundaries is that they don't just protect you from negativity, they also help you recognize what you do want to invite in. When you know what you're not willing to tolerate, you become clearer about what you're ready to receive. You stop entertaining relationships that are one-sided. You stop saying yes to things that exhaust you. And suddenly, your life begins to fill with experiences that are aligned with who you truly are. What often makes boundary setting difficult is the fear of how others will react. Will they be upset? Will they pull away? Will they call you selfish or dramatic? And yes, some people will resist your boundaries, but that resistance is revealing. The people who are only in your life because of your availability, your silence, or your compliance will feel threatened when you begin to assert yourself. That doesn't mean your boundaries are wrong, it means they're necessary. Not everyone is meant to stay, and not everyone deserves access to every part of you. Boundaries are how you decide who gets your time, your energy, your emotional labor. They help you conserve what matters most so that you can give from a place of overflow, not depletion. You can be generous and still have boundaries. You can be kind and still say no. You can be loving and still choose distance when something becomes harmful. In fact, boundaries make relationships stronger, not weaker. When people know where you stand, they can meet you with honesty and respect. There's no confusion, no resentment, no silent suffering. Clear boundaries create clear relationships. They allow you to show up authentically, not out of obligation, but out of choice. The most powerful thing you can do for your peace is to get comfortable with the discomfort of setting boundaries. It might feel unfamiliar at first. You might second guess yourself, but over time you'll start to feel a shift. You'll feel lighter. You'll feel more in control. You'll stop living for other people's validation and start living from your own truth. That's not selfish, that's sacred. Boundaries are not about keeping people out, they're about keeping your peace in peace isn't something you stumble upon by accident. It's not a reward for how much you endure or how well you perform for others. Peace is a choice, a daily decision, a personal responsibility. No one can hand it to you. No one can fight for it on your behalf. You have to protect it like it's the most valuable thing you own, because it is. Most people talk about wanting peace, but few are willing to do what it takes to protect it. That's because protecting your peace often requires uncomfortable decisions. It might mean disappointing others, saying no when it's easier to say yes, or walking away from things and people you once thought you couldn't live without. But here's the truth: if something constantly costs you your peace, it's too expensive. The world is loud. There are pressures pulling at you from every angle: family expectations, social obligations, professional demands, and even your own inner critic. If you're not intentional, that noise can drown out your inner calm. That's why you have to become your own guardian. You have to learn how to recognize what disturbs your peace and have the courage to remove it, even when it's inconvenient or uncomfortable. Protecting your peace isn't passive. It's active. It's choosing to limit your exposure to negativity. It's controlling what you consume, the conversations you entertain, the energy you absorb, the environments you tolerate. It's turning down the volume on the world so you can hear your own thoughts. It's stepping back when the world demands you rush forward. It's unplugging, unfollowing, and unlearning when necessary. And protecting your peace doesn't mean you live in denial or avoidance. It means you choose to respond, not react. You learn to pause. You learn that not every battle is yours to fight, that silence can be power, that walking away is sometimes louder than shouting back. You become selective about where your energy goes because peace doesn't come from being everything to everyone. It comes from being true to yourself. One of the most overlooked parts of peace is solitude. We've been conditioned to associate being alone with loneliness, but there is a certain strength that grows in solitude. When you spend time with yourself, you remember who you are beneath all the roles and expectations. You find clarity in the stillness, and when you're connected to yourself, the outside world loses its grip on your emotions. You also start to realize that peace is not about the absence of problems, it's about how you carry yourself through them. You don't wait for life to be perfect. You create boundaries, set limits, and stay grounded even in the chaos. You don't allow people to drag you into drama just because it's familiar. You learn to disengage with love and protect your joy with quiet strength. No one else will prioritize your peace for you. People will take as much as you give. And if you're constantly giving at the expense of your own mental, emotional, and physical well-being, you'll burn out. You'll begin to lose touch with your own needs, and that's when resentment and exhaustion take root. But when you begin to make peace your non-negotiable, everything changes. You think clearer, you love deeper, you grow faster, you start to feel whole again. Peace is not a privilege, it's a birthright. But it's up to you to protect it fiercely, daily, and unapologetically. Courage isn't always loud. Sometimes it's a quiet decision made in the privacy of your heart, a decision to walk away from something that no longer serves you, even when you're scared, even when it hurts. It takes a different kind of strength to choose peace over chaos, especially when that chaos is familiar. But that strength is what ultimately sets you free. We often think of courage as bold, dramatic acts, standing on stages, confronting enemies, making loud declarations. But the courage to walk away from toxic relationships, draining environments, or situations that make you question your worth, that's a different story. That kind of courage requires a deep internal reckoning. It asks you to trust your intuition over other people's opinions. It asks you to stop minimizing your pain just to keep the peace around you. There's a reason people stay in situations that destroy their spirit. Familiar chaos can feel safer than unfamiliar calm. You might tell yourself, maybe it'll change, or maybe I'm expecting too much, or at least I know what to expect here. But surviving is not the same as living. And you can't grow in a space that constantly demands you to shrink. The longer you stay in environments that deplete you, the more you begin to internalize the idea that your well-being is less important than someone else's comfort. Walking away isn't giving up, it's choosing yourself, it's saying, I deserve more than this. Whether it's a job that undervalues you, a relationship that gaslights you, a friendship that constantly drains you, courage is knowing when to stop negotiating with chaos and start protecting your soul. It's the moment you realize that your peace, your energy, and your purpose are worth defending. People might not understand. They may label you as difficult, sensitive, ungrateful, but their discomfort is not your responsibility. You're not here to live a life that makes others feel comfortable while you're slowly dying inside. You're here to live fully, deeply, and freely, And sometimes that means closing doors that once felt essential to your identity. That means letting go of what is no longer aligned with your growth, even if it once felt like home. And here's what they don't tell you. The first step away from chaos is often the loneliest. You'll miss the noise, even if it was toxic. You'll miss the routine, even if it drained you. You might question yourself, doubt your strength, wonder if you made a mistake. That's normal. It's part of the shedding process. But in that silence, in that space you create by walking away, something beautiful begins to bloom. You start to hear your own voice again. You remember what peace feels like. You begin to breathe. Eventually, you'll look back and realize that leaving wasn't the hardest part staying would have been. Because the longer you stay in places that hurt, the more you forget that you were never meant to live in survival mode. You were meant to thrive, and thriving requires space. Space to heal, to rediscover, to rebuild. True courage is doing the hard thing not because it's easy or convenient, but because it's necessary. It's trusting that even though you're walking into the unknown, you're walking towards something better, something softer, healthier, more aligned. You're walking toward you, so when the time comes, don't fear the walk. Fear what will happen if you stay, because your peace is waiting on the other side of that choice, and you are brave enough to make it. Every time you say no to something that doesn't align with your purpose, you make room for something that does. That's the power of intentional living, understanding that your energy is finite, your time is limited, and your presence is valuable. When you stop filling your life with the things, people, and commitments that drain you, you create the space needed for clarity, creativity, and fulfillment to thrive. Saying no isn't rejection, it's redirection. It's your soul's way of pointing you back toward what truly matters. We live in a culture that glamorizes being busy, like your worth is measured by how much you do, how many people you impress, how much access others have to you. So we say yes out of habit. We say yes to things that look good on the outside but feel heavy on the inside. We say yes to avoid conflict, to maintain an image, to keep doors open. But those unnecessary yesies stack up. They fill your schedule, fog your focus, and block your blessings. The truth is, not everything deserves your yes. Not every opportunity is meant for you. Not every invitation is a compliment. Some are distractions wrapped in praise. Some are detours disguised as doors. And if you're not grounded in what you value, in what you're really here to do, you'll spend your life chasing the wrong things, pouring your energy into spaces that never pour back. That's why your no is sacred. It's how you protect your purpose. It's how you stay aligned, because every time you say no to something false, you make space for something true. You say no to the party so you can rest. You say no to the project so you can work on your own. You say no to the chaos so you can move with clarity. And in that space, in that quiet, unoccupied space, the right opportunities begin to appear. The ones that feed your spirit instead of your ego. The ones that stretch you without breaking you. The ones that bring joy, not just attention. When you learn to say no without guilt, you also teach others how to treat you. You send a message that your peace is non-negotiable, that your energy is not up for grabs. You model self-respect, and you attract relationships and experiences that reflect that same energy. People begin to approach you with more mindfulness. They think twice before asking you to carry things that aren't yours. And you start to feel lighter, stronger, more in control of your life. But the most beautiful part of reclaiming your no is that your yes becomes more powerful. It becomes rare, intentional, full of meaning. You stop overcommitting. You stop over-explaining. You stop giving your power away in little pieces. Instead, you begin to live on purpose. You begin to speak, move, and decide from a place of grounded clarity. A true yes, the kind that comes from alignment, not obligation, will always lead you closer to who you're meant to be. And the only way to make room for that kind of yes is by being brave enough to say no to everything else. Not because it's bad, not because you're better, but because your peace, your calling, and your time are too precious to waste.